Good morning, Terry. I, Margie Buttitta, will be interviewing you today, Thursday, January 26, 2017, and we are at Louisville Convent in Woodland Hills, California. You're most welcome, and I thank you for your time today. And we're looking forward to talking to you to learn a little bit about your varied ministries as a Sister of St. Louis. Let's begin with what prompted you to enter the Sisters of St. Louis in 1972. That's always a great place to start.
Well, I don't think why I entered is the right question to ask.
Okay,
I think the better question is, why am I still here?
that's true.
So, my thinking when I was younger, not that I made the wrong choice by any means, but it's why do I continue to be a Sister of St. Louis? Why am I still here today continuing to do the work that I have chosen to do? And that's what keeps me going. I don't think I would have been able to put into words what I saw or why I wanted to enter with the Sisters of St. Louis. But today, what captures me and what carries me, what compels me to continue, is the charism, our history, the motto of God wills it, that we may be one, that they may be one, from John's Gospel, and Abby Botan's phrase, one world healed, unified, and transformed. That's what the backdrop is for everything that I do. For why I do things, for what I'm trying to do. It's just a part of who I am today.
So maybe my question should have been, like, who introduced you even to get to know the Sisters of St. Louis? I know you have some vivid memories, maybe, of your teachers in St. Cyprian's grade school in Lakewood, California. Was there anyone especially who maybe introduced you, or how did you even get to know about the Sisters of St. Louis?
Well, I went to grammar school at St. Cyprian's in Lakewood. And actually, there isn't any of them that are still alive today. But Mary Canhedy was my first grade teacher. She used to love to tell me when I'd go up to her room to visit her that she loved my printing, that I was such a good printer in first grade. She was my first introduction to the Sisters of St. Louis. My two older sisters were attending St. Cyprian's, but it was their school until I actually got into school. But it was really, it was all the sisters throughout the years that I watched with curiosity. But it was probably Mother Killian who was really influential. It was Margaret McHugh who brought me up to Louisville many, many times. When I was the first time I came up, I was in 8th grade. And then during high school, she would call me and bring me up here. But it was Mother Killian and there wasn't anything, I never came up here with her. There was just something about her that was just very, she kind of took me under her wing. But when I was in 8th grade, I had the keys to the kingdom. She was principal as well as the 8th grade teacher. And I'd go into her office first thing in the morning and take her keys out of the top drawer of her desk. And
wow.
Yeah, as an 8th grader, I had keys to everything. And I would go around and unlock the classrooms for her. Or if she needed something, I'd be the one that she would call on to go and do whatever it was.
Very responsible.
Oh, very responsible
Very
person.
responsible. Now, you did not have the sisters in high school.
No.
You went to high school?
I went to St. Joseph's
St.
with
Joseph's
the Crondelets.
with the Crondelets. And that's the opposite of me. I went to grade school with the Crondelets and high school with the Louis. So that's interesting. And then you studied at Mount St. Mary's College in Los Angeles, and then you taught grade school and junior high and high school for about 12 years.
12 years, yes.
About 12 years. Would you like to highlight some of your experience during these teaching years, or how were those teaching years influential in your life maybe today?
Well, I always wanted to teach. When I was in school, there was just, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I loved it. I know I was a very creative teacher. It was just something that, I knew from an early age that this is what I wanted to do. So it was a natural progression once I entered with the Louis, who is in the United States at teaching community. So it was just a natural thing to do. But I only taught for 12 years. But I still teach. My classroom looks a little different is all.
And you had a wide variety of teaching for like grade school, junior high, and high school. Which of those grade levels did you enjoy the most? Or
Well, I always said if I was to return to teaching, I'd go back to junior high.
Junior high.
Yeah.
Okay. So during your time as a teacher, those 12 years in grade school, junior high, and high school, would you like to highlight maybe some of your experiences during those teaching years? Like, you are a good storyteller, so do you have any good stories about those years or about your students, any of your students who you may have contact with till today?
Well, I'm not so sure I can remember any specific stories. There's some of the students that I'm still in contact with. There's two students, someone from my first third grade class, my first year teaching, and also my first year in high school. Both young women who are now in their 40s are both doing advocacy work, one in Washington and one in Sacramento. My classroom was always enjoyable. I enjoyed being there, and the students enjoyed being there. So there was always a lot of activity going on, a lot of creativity. And that's what stands out. It's the students, not so much what we did, just that we enjoyed doing it together.
Well, I can believe that because you're a person who has a lot of creative talents, and I'm sure your students enjoyed all that during teaching. And then we had a big jump in 1988, which for some reason you decided to get interested in doing detention ministry with the Catholic Charities up in Oakland, California, and you decided to be an intern there and to get some experience or whatever. What brought you from grade school, junior high, and high school to work in detention ministry?
Well, pretty much the 12 years that I was teaching in grammar school and high school, my brother Joel was in and out of jail and prison. And I was the one person in the family who always knew where he was. I would go and visit him wherever he was in California. And so when he came to the point in his life where he really wanted to make a change, he wanted to be different, I knew when he was serious. It wasn't just lip service type of thing. So I started to look into what resources were available to a young man after being released from prison. And I talked to the professionals and all the different organizations that are known for working with the incarcerated and the formerly incarcerated. And I was very discouraged because of their attitude, their outlook. They questioned why he wasn't, why he didn't have his GED at this point or his high school diploma. Why wasn't he doing different things? They looked at his history as opposed to what he wanted to do. There was no hope for him, is basically what they were saying. And I felt if I was this frustrated and I had the education, I was working, I had stability in my life, I couldn't imagine what his frustration would have been like if he was the one receiving that kind of a response from people that were supposed to be helping him.
Yeah, like the doors of the future were closing for him instead of being open.
By the people who
Yes.
were holding on to those doors. And so it's out of that experience that I wanted to move into reentry work. But I couldn't get hired by the Diocese of Los Angeles. I was told because I was a woman that I would not be hired by a friend of the community also. So I went, Oakland had no problem with me coming up there. And I worked in juvenile hall as a chaplain. I worked in the county jail with both the women and the men. And I also went to San Quentin and visited on death row. I did that for a year before coming back down to Southern California. I'd answered an ad in National Catholic Reporter for the executive director of Crossroads. I came down here and interviewed, and the rest is history.
And I'm sure that movie, Dead Man Walking, had a lot of impact to you as well. And you actually met the real sister,
Helen Prager.
Helen Prager.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Was
Many
that
times.
during that time, or was it?
I was already
afterwards?
working at
You were already
Crossroads.
working.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you see any way that your educational opportunities, which you did say, impacted this ministry and even now your leadership roles? The opportunities you've had in education, Mount St. Mary's, and the teaching that you had, did they help you in getting into this ministry as well, or changing ministries?
Well, I think being a teacher, you know, my bachelor's degree, I mean, the skills are transferable in so many different ways. But it was really my working on my master's in feminist spirituality that really helped to solidify or to verbalize much of my my own opinion, my own theology, my own outlook on life. Just the whole experience of equality, of inclusiveness, of right relationships. I'd say that's what has influenced me more than the general education.
Yes. And now you are executive director of Crossroads. How did you get that role? How did you get involved in that ministry from all of this experience that you were having in the detention ministry? How did you actually
Well, I only worked in detention.
introduced?
I answered an ad from National Catholic Reporter.
Okay.
It was for that position. I stepped into the position from the volunteer position up north. I came down for the initial interview and that, and then the board asked me to come down to a board meeting, and I was interviewed by the board. And one of the founders of Crossroads loves to tell the story that I told them that they needed me, and which I vaguely remember doing that.
You sold yourself.
I sold myself. I walked in with shaking knees, but I sold myself. And I've been there for 28 years.
They liked that.
Yeah.
28 years, that's right. Talk about Crossroads a little bit. Tell us about it.
Well, when I first went to Crossroads, it was the best kept secret in Claremont. Not too many people knew about it. It was not well publicized, but this is where the St. Louis charism comes in. I firmly believe we are community. We create family, and that's what I do at Crossroads, is I create family. So my involvement had to be with the larger community, because what we wanted to do was to reintegrate people, women, back into the community and to become self-sufficient. And you don't do that in isolation. So by educating the larger community about the work we are doing, there's that automatic involvement. If you take the stereotype away and look at each other one-on-one, those fears go by the wayside, type of thing. So I did a lot of outside PR advocacy work while I worked individually with each of the women. When I first got there, it was basically a group living home with staff supervision.
It was one house only?
It was one house, 6 beds.
Which you still have to this day?
We still have today. We are a licensed drug and alcohol program. We have 4 houses. At any given time, I would have up to 24 women with bed space, although we work with far more than that, because the women who complete the program, many of them stay in the area. We have a support group. They're creating their own community with a small grant that we have from Tri-City Mental Health called a well-being grant, where people recognize their own community and build that community. So we have one that we're working with our graduates, and they call themselves Life After Life.
Wow, Life After Life. And you now have 4 homes.
4 homes, yes. 4 homes.
And you have also been able to hire some of your graduates.
Well, I can't expect other people to hire formerly incarcerated women if I'm not willing to do that myself. So as we ask anyone else, if the person has the qualifications that you're looking for, if they have the experience, the knowledge, the education, whatever the requirements are, don't hold their history against them, give them a chance. So my program director, my number 2 person, is a formerly incarcerated woman. She just finished her bachelor's degree in psychology. Prior to that, she had her KDAC certification as a drug and alcohol class 2 counselor. But more than half of my staff are formerly incarcerated.
That is wonderful. And has been very successful.
It has been, yes. It is very successful.
It is successful.
Yes.
Now, are there many women what's the percentage of the women who maybe don't come up to the grade, don't come up to the expectations you would have for them? Or should I say, don't take advantage of the opportunities you're giving them? Are there some that...
Well, Crossroads isn't a place for everyone because we put a lot of personal responsibility on the woman herself. She needs to be accountable for herself, and to us. It is a program. The women do have to respond to Department of Corrections, the parole office. But if the woman is not willing to take that personal responsibility, Crossroads isn't the right place. She has to work. We do not allow the women to be on public assistance. They are eligible for it, but we do not allow it to be at Crossroads. They must work. If they are, except for the seniors who come, we're not going to make them go to work. The elderly, yes.
And you have had up until what, 80-year-olds or?
88 was the oldest.
88.
The oldest woman that I had, yes. So they have to be out looking for work once they have their identification in that. And then save any money that they earn. 75% has to be put into savings. Because it does them no good if they, at the end of their 6 months, they have no savings to move out onto their own, or in with family, or in with other people. If they leave us in the same state as when they arrived, we've done them no service.
So you have a high percentage of success rate.
Well over 90% of the women who come to us, who do at least 3 months with us, are self-sufficient in 6 years.
And having graduate women from the same experience on your staff, those women really understand even better the new women that are coming in. They have a better understanding and can kind of help the success rate.
It works on many levels. I mean, there's the identification, and there's also the knowing the backstory.
Yes.
To a lot of things. So they think Jackie's tough.
You're tougher.
I'm tougher. I've taught her everything I know. And they think she's the tough one. They're a role model.
Yes,
the women see that, I mean, at this point, many of the women who are coming through Crossroads also knew Jackie when she was inside, because we're working mostly with lifers at this point. But they remember Jackie, and they see the change. They see what is possible.
That's wonderful. And I know Crossroads has gotten a lot of awards, and you have too. And that is a wonderful, wonderful model for. Are there any other programs like Crossroads that can use your success stories to help them even improve? Or I don't know. I don't know of any.
Well, Crossroads is really very unique, and I think, you know, my background, both with my brother, my education,
right,
the feminist spirituality program that I went through, I think it helped to create a very different environment that is very conducive for change. I mean, we only provide the environment, and we encourage the women to take control of themselves. I mean, we definitely provide guidance and provide them with the opportunity to learn the skills and to take a second look at themselves. But it's been a tough road all along because, well, statistically, it is shown that smaller programs are far more successful, but it is very costly to do it that way.
A lot of fundraising.
A lot of fundraising. There's never enough funds
Never.
to do what you want to do. But we make it work. I mean, that's the difference between someone looking for resources and someone being resourceful. And I'll always take the label of being resourceful.
And I can certainly see the St. Louis heritage and legacy shining bright there when you talk about family and united. Can you say anything else about our charism that you are even passing on to these women, and that Crossroads infleshes too in its very design?
Well, I think the simple fact that we, for many of the women, maybe they don't have family that they can go back to. Maybe the family is, I mean, with some of the seniors that have come, they don't have any family members left. For others, they cannot go back to family because that was part of the problem to begin with. For others, families don't want them anymore. So it's really new ground in so many ways for many different reasons for most of the women. For some, family do want them back, but they realize that it's not the best environment that they need to be in. Families have not moved on or have not taken a look at lifestyles or whatever like the women have had to do while incarcerated, just in order to get out, having been served a life sentence. So just the whole idea of support, of family, of community, I know that's what I bring very definitely to Crossroads. That is the charism of the St. Louis.
A world united, healed, and transformed.
Right.
And you can see that transformation clearly
Yes.
in some of the women that have gone through Crossroads and are still in Crossroads, and your staff of graduated women. You have also had all these educational and I'm sure Crossroad experiences and come and help you in your leadership roles. You've been in leadership 2 or 3 times in the region. Would you like to speak a little bit about that, just to finish off your role as in leadership in Sisters of St. Louis regional team?
Well, I think for leadership, I think we're all leaders in one way or another, and it's a matter of recognizing those capabilities in each of us. I know the knowledge that I have gained, whether it was in education or running Crossroads, and also growing up at home. As I'd mentioned a little earlier, I'm used to being a resourceful person. If I don't know something, I'm going to find out about it. If I don't know how to do something, I'll find out how to do it. I'm not going to wait for something to happen. So I have a lot of capabilities, and I think that's recognized when you're able to get something accomplished, get something taken care of. I'm sure that the recognition that I have received, that Crossroads has received, both on the local level and more on a state and a national level, has not hurt my profile there. But I mean, I don't know. It just seems much bigger than what I really think about. You know, I'm just doing the best that I can do. I'm just doing what I know how to do, and trying to do that to the best of my ability.
Well, it's very clear that you are passionate about what you are doing, and that's very fortunate because so many people are in jobs or experiences or whatever that don't have a passion for it, that are doing it just for the paycheck or whatever. So I think it's a blessing, and we thank you for the passion that you have and for all that you have done, and all the best too in the future and in the future of Crossroads. Thank you so much, Terry, for your time and lightened mood of all that you have done and have been for the Sisters of St. Louis.
Thank you.
Thank you.